My father used to say, don't ever be afraid to fail. More people have good ideas that don't go forward with anything because they're afraid to fail. I've always believed that it's the intersection between dreaming and doing that can change the world. And that's how I've lived my life. My name is Syd Kitson. I graduated in '81 with an economics degree. When I was recruited by Wake Forest, first of all, I couldn't believe I was being recruited by Wake Forest. I had a number of big colleges, universities recruiting me to play football, but Wake Forest was a whole nother level in terms of academics. When I came to visit the campus, I just remember falling in love with the place.
Syd Kitson was my freshman roommate. Syd became a captain in 1979. We had an opportunity to play in the Tangerine Bowl, the first Citrus Bowl, Capital One Bowl. The names have changed over the years, but it's a pretty prestigious bowl.
This is the offensive line for the Deacons. Ward, Hard, Truitt, Kitson, and Jones.
Administration thought it would be a good idea, probably based on finances, that the top 40 players would go a week early, and then the rest of the team would bust down the following week. We've been preached to the whole year, we are one football team. Now we're going to divide us based on talent. So he went to the administration and told them that either we all go at the beginning or none of us going. He fought for everyone. And I think a lot of people started looking at him in a different way.
Those lessons really helped me later on, because when I first started talking about purchasing Babcock Ranch, I would say 95% of the people in my own company and outside my company thought it was a bad idea.
The initial vision for Babcock Ranch was to put together 8 initiatives into one community, and those initiatives were everything from transportation, education, storm readiness, public safety, sustainability, solar power. All of those key initiatives were wrapped into a community that was not going to disturb the land any more than it had already been disturbed.
It was both sustainable in terms of power with the solar power center. It was sustainable in terms of land use with the establishment of the old historical flowways and the rain gardens and the stormwater design, so that it would capture all those stormwaters and not be subject to flooding.
An important part of how Babcock Ranch succeeded was our relationship with environmental organizations. And Syd worked on this extremely hard to let them know we really were going to do the things that we said we were going to do.
This was a deal that was done on the basis of one man's integrity. Every step of the way, he said what he was going to do, and then he did what he said he was going to do.
We wanted to prove that a new town and the environment could work hand in hand. And we wanted to do that by making it the most sustainable, the most resilient, and the most innovative new town that's ever been built. And so when you think about Wake Forest and what it stands for, you know, those big ideas and reaching, you know, making, you know, the world a better place, all those things that we've talked about, that's what Babcock Ranch, you know, is. 90% of the original ranch is in preservation forever. And that might be the thing that I'm most proud of, because that's going to be there forever for my kids, my grandkids, my great-grandkids. They're all going to enjoy this beautiful property that is never going to be developed or touched.
Babcock Ranch works with nature as opposed to against nature. And that was something that was really unique to Syd's vision.
My name is Christina Contos, and I'm the Environmental Conservation Manager of Babcock Ranch, also a wildlife biologist. So I manage 13,000 acres of preserves, and of course everything in between regarding wildlife. I never expected to be here, being a biologist working for a development company. So because a lot of biologists, you know, obviously development is very detrimental to the work that we do, because so many development companies, you know, might just waffle the land completely, whereas Syd Kitson has learned to work with the land, work with the water flow, work with the wildlife, work with making sure that land stays connected and protected. You know, we even have wildlife culverts under our main spine roads so that wildlife can cross safely across the road, which is so huge, and you never see that in a development community. Syd listens to my voice for the wildlife and for the environment.
As a, quote, developer, sometimes you get villainized a little bit. But look, you know, we need to build homes. We need new towns, but we need to do it the right way.
The vision that you had, you've maintained, which is going to be your legacy. You didn't cut corners, didn't compromise when times were tough. You built the most sustainable community that's now appreciated by thousands of people that are buying homes here.
Governor Bush was on our board, and when we first started Babcock Ranch, he says, you need to start with the school.
I started here in 2017 as the founding principal, and we continued to grow, and I was able to just move into different roles during that time. Once I started working with the team at Kitson Partners, it was really clear that, yes, they said that they were about the importance of education and that they were committed to education, but every time they spoke about it, you could feel the passion and you knew that it was legitimate. When you have a passion for that dream, that it can come to fruition. And I can say that without a doubt, it has changed me being at Babcock. And even if I had to walk away tomorrow for whatever reason, I will be a better person for the rest of my life because of the Kitson team and Syd Kitson.
Education is an incredibly important part of who we are at Babcock Ranch. We have our K-12 school. We have VPK here. We have the solar ranch that talks about the solar. We're right now building a Florida Wildlife Center that's going to teach kids about Florida's heritage with the Florida Wildlife Corridor and the Everglades and cattle ranching and agriculture. When you ask kids today, where does food come from? They'll say from the local grocery store. We need to make sure they understand where it's really, really coming from. I want to make sure that those core values that we have, the vision for Babcock Ranch, remains not only here today, but well into the future. There's so much to do here, but it's mostly outdoors. And it's about getting the kids out from behind the screen to hop on their bikes and just explore, kind of like we did when I was a kid. You know, my mom used to kick us out in the morning, tell us to be home for dinner at night.
It's allowing these kids in this generation to experience that freedom of, you know, it's safe and you get out of school and you go off with your friends and you've got activities that you're going to. You know, that hardly happens anywhere anymore.
That's part of the culture of who we are, to make sure that people are outdoors, they're exercising.
I absolutely think this should be the model for all communities going forward. It's hard to put into words what he's done here. I was like a kid on Christmas morning to go up and stand on that third story and look out over all those acres of solar. I've been in solar for 43 years. So to actually live in a community powered by solar, it's just hard to imagine that this vision could become this reality.
To hear him talk about the motto of Wake Forest, I've never really heard him speak to it before, but gosh, I've seen it in action. I've seen it in action for 20 years.
One of the reasons I did Babcock Ranch is I remember my father was dying, and it was back in 2005, and I laid out all the plans for Babcock Ranch, and he was very sick at the time, but I went through it with him, and we were very close, and his opinion meant a lot to me. And I said, Dad, you know, do you think I should do this? And he looked at me and he said, well, it seems to me you've been working your whole life to do this. Why wouldn't you? And that was it. That was it.